mean? It's just
even that kind of words, like a lot of these kids here, like, wow, there's races that are put on them, but they don't understand.
Exactly.
They think it's just normal.
And they think there's something wrong with them, not wrong with the person doing it.
They don't really understand what's happening until you start talking about, their role as a young man, and they start to understand that, wow, I wasn't supposed to be treated that way, or I wasn't supposed to treat others that way as well, because every person is sacred according to our natural law or our culture.
Exactly.
And everything has a spirit, and we can't interfere or track in front of that spirit of another living thing.
Yeah.
And we don't have that right. So when they start to understand that, it's like their awareness is more, and then their choice of behavior and words will be a little bit more, with understanding.
It's so challenging, particularly with the whole Me Too movement and stuff happening like that, and to a certain extent the demonising of male behaviour, that's occurred in the media and in social media, and the reading of some normal masculine behaviour as somehow being offensive. I think it's quite confusing. And I was talking to a young man here in Saskatoon the other day who was explaining to his mother that the consent age for sex up there is 14, but the person has to be within 5 years of that 14-year-old to have sex with them and not get in trouble. And his mother was going, really? Is that what it is? And I said, yeah, but you see, he will know, given the current situation, what the rules are that he has to obey and the laws before he actually gets in trouble. And I said, this whole thing about the way we're emasculating these poor young men, about what is consent, what is informed consent, and all of the rest of it. And they're all sitting there trying to figure out, how do I even engage as a bloke with a girl anymore? We've sent them a whole lot more complications, and I worry for this current generation of young men that we,
It is tricky for young men today, so even for young girls. Especially if they listen to social media, and when it's being put out there by non-natives, and yet when they don't know who they are as a First Nation, especially their role as a young male or female, and even if they come from what their kinship is, and yet the outside thoughts that in some ways it's get confusing, but in some ways they feel like maybe it's a lot easier to conform into that, instead of, because in our way of life it's a little bit more strict, and you gotta build your role. And that's why a lot of them, they have a hard time with their self-identity sometimes, or even their role as a young man. And so that's why it's like language is very important. And that there again, what are you dressed up in? Meaning knowledge. And based on that knowledge, how are you going to conduct and say, right? And if you don't have that knowledge, you're always going to conform to something that's not who you are. And so that becomes, our own culture becomes watered down, not very important. And that's why, like, cultural and language is so important. And if we're to have all these cultural language, kinship, and practices, in place for our youth, they will know how to think. They will know how to think for themselves based on where they're at, their role, and they will overcome lots of things. Nothing will ever really knock them down.
No.
Because they will carry a prayer, a song, their relation, their kingship, their clanship.
Yeah.
They will carry their spirituality. They will know their part and their place in that circle of that ceremony.
Yeah.
And it's all it's our way of life.
Yeah.
And they will know where they're going. But when there's nothing part of them like that, they're gonna have a hard time understanding the world.
Yeah.
You know, they will tremble, they will trip and won't know how to get up. Yeah. So that's why it's so important that, you know, cultural, all these 4 things that I mentioned that will help them understand who they are.
Yeah.
And their walk in life in this Mother Earth. Yeah.